Good evening, everyone. Glad you could join. If you like this video, please share it with others. I hope you would. This is a part 2 of the video I did earlier, and it touches on the lies of these politicians. And this is interesting because it is what it is. I'm going to read you a little something real quick here. If you're counting on the federal politicians to do what you want them to do, you're going to be seriously disappointed. Show me that the age of a country when the rights and liberties of the people were placed on the sole chances of their rulers. Being good men without consequences is a loss of liberty. And that was written by Patrick Henry, 1788. My version is a little different. This was done in June 10th of 2018. The Democrats have some Republicans that are either selling out those they represent or outright lie about their principles in order to get elected. These Republicans support the Democrat Party, on almost every policy. Their policies that they want to cram down Americans' throats will destroy America and everything she stands for. And all the lives lost and defend for freedom will be for naught. But it will be the American people who will unanimously pay the price. Poverty, violence, lawlessness will become commonplace. Which is what's happening now. As we speak, as we watch these so-called negotiations or deals being made on your constitutional rights, the Bill of Rights is endangerment. Whether you own a firearm or you do not, understand what these red flag laws are. Red flag laws stripped a lot of your constitutional rights. Illegal search and seizure, due process, and it goes on. Here's the thing about this red flag laws, even if they push it nationally. When you have Mitch McConnell and Daniel McCarthy and all these other politicians making deals on your rights because the Democrats want all kinds of power, this is an endangerment to itself. Red flag laws are a rung on the ladder to close to martial law because it continuously rips away your rights, which they don't even care about anyway. They rather negotiate them away and, everybody walks away hunky-dory. Bad deal. But let's take a scenario at this. Suppose, just for instance, suppose they were able to take away a lot of our firearm rights and many other rights along with it. They're going to have to find some other use for these red flag laws. And who do you think they're going to dump them on? Those who never owned a firearm in their life. They're going to dump it right on them. Your rights are now become violated. So all these anti-gunners and all these other people who want all these laws to go through are being led down the wrong road here. It's not the firearm that does the crime. It's the person behind that firearm that does the crime. I just read recently, earlier this morning, what really got me angry was a New York judge released a man, a felon, on probation, carrying an illegal firearm with 5 rounds in a magazine. He was released. That easy. But when it comes to a citizen, they want to run through the ringer. Case in point, New Jersey, up North Jersey, that happened too, where they turned around and they let a person out who commit violent crime, thus had a firearm. They just let the person out with more probation. But when someone goes over the bridge in New Jersey carrying a firearm, which is legal but not in New Jersey because they don't have a permit for New Jersey, they will make a first-class felony out of that individual. And it had happened. If it wasn't for certain groups and certain lawyers and attorneys getting involved. So what's the deal here? Red flag laws are just more a joke than anything else because they don't stop crime. There's many laws on the books where you can call up an officer of the law or whatever and say, look, we have a person that's very dangerous and you need to come look at this person. He's making all kinds of threats and all kinds of accusations. Maybe you should take a look at this guy or this girl. And they do that. But it doesn't go far enough. So the red flag law, because, well, you know, we want to protect everybody. So we're going to protect the person who files the complaint, protect other individuals who are involved, except you, the one who's paying the price for this thing. Like I said, we got Mitch McConnell, McCarthy, and all the rest of these clowns running around making deals on your rights. Makes a very interesting climb, isn't it? It's like, you know, it's like we're not satisfied. We're not satisfied. We want more laws, more laws, more laws. And yet, there's so many laws on the books now. Half the people don't know where they are. And a lot of the laws are so vague, it's hard to even interpret them. But the sad part about it is they decided to do something. But now this is because of these mass shootings, which was done by people with mental illness, which the Democrats don't want to hear anymore. They don't want to hear that criminals don't obey laws. They don't want to hear anything because according to them, they could care less. They'd rather remove your rights, control your rights, because every country around the world has it and everybody's fine, except one problem. What about the mass graves in Mexico? What about the mass graves in Bosnia? What about the mass graves in Syria and Iraq? Oh, we don't talk about them. People who are disarmed. Look what's happening in Russia. Look what happened in Ukraine. Look what happened in the War of 1812. Look what happened to the Native Americans, the Wounded Knee, who surrendered their rifles and wound up getting almost annihilated by the cavalry. History does have a nasty way of repeating itself. Look what happened in 9/11. We're bringing all these people in the south border. Some were terrorists, and you got terrorists around the world. But we have open border. Now, what happens if these terrorists have brought their own equipment over and it's already here? We don't know what they're doing with it. We're worried about you, the American citizen, and your firearm. Not the criminal, not the mentally insane. It's you, the American citizen. You don't need that right. You don't need that rifle. You don't need the right to speech. What do you need justice for? This is the dangers about all this. When the government turns around and tells you what you need, there's an issue here. When the government turns around and says, yes, you want to take on a tyrannical government, you better buy some F-18s and some cruise missiles, but you don't hear it once, twice, you hear it 3 or 4 times. Okay, you convinced me you are now a tyrannical government. So what's next? That's how stupid it gets. There's a lot more to this. Alright? When you have this kind of leadership, this is supposed to be the government of the people. When you have this kind of leadership that's running around telling people, well, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. Oh, you know, we need to stop selling ammunition to civilians, 5.56 or anything from Lake Armory or whatever it may be. You have to ask yourself a question. Well, wow, if you can do that, why can't you do something with the fuel? Why can't you do something about the oil and gas? Why can't you do something about the food shortages? Since you can just snap your finger and be able to do all this, why? Why can't you do it? These politicians are the worst of them all. Yes, there are some good Democrats out there who are gun owners, believe it or not, don't like what's going on in Washington. Their idea and my idea and many other people, why don't you just sit down and just talk about it and see how we can work something up here? No, we're not trying to negotiate your rights away. So all those people who died on the battlefield to keep our rights, who cares about that? That's the attitude you have these politicians for. They want to play God over you. That's why they're so intent on going after the Supreme Court. Why they can't stand Mr. Kavanaugh, Justice Kavanaugh. And yet Clarence Thomas's wife about what went on between Donald Trump and communications and whatever. This is really ridiculous. They want that kind of power. I guess they see what goes on in Europe. We can have that here too. I guess there must be a lot of money involved. People, you need to call your congressmen and these senators or whoever it is you got to do and tell them your rights are not up for negotiations. Now, if they can't do it on a federal level, the states are going to do it in their own way. And a lot of these controlled Democrat states, well, I think there's a ways we can get around them too. Don't be afraid to vote. It is part of our Constitution. The Supreme Court is also our strongest point. When we look at all these things, we ask ourselves, what is with these two parties? What is with the Democrats? Why? Well, here's the thing about Democrats. People don't really realize. The Democrats are very powerful. They have vast amounts of resources at their fingertips. They're very politically connected, inside and outside of the United States, and they have vast amounts of money. Republicans don't have that kind of power. Democrats rule whether they're in the House or they're not. So how much power does a party have, not to be a political party more, but to be the ruling factor? And the Republicans don't have the strength to stand up to them. Something to think about. So when you vote, understand you have a lot of these rhinos you need to get rid of. And you have a lot of Democrats you need to throw out the door. Vote. Mental illness is a big issue. Washington knows it. They don't want to hear it. Criminals don't follow laws. No, they let criminals walk the streets. Walk right out. But honest people, we'll lock them up. Till then, keep your friends and family safe. Catch you around. I really wonder.